Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our next episode of Cooking with Someone. Today we're cooking with Chuck Corwin, who is making deviled pork chops. Chuck, take it away.
Thank you, and I apologize for the delay. We were having some audio problems here, so thank you for sticking with us. I am the nurse volunteer for the COA, so that's how Debbie Looney got me doing this. But in our house, my wife and I share cooking duties, and so I'm cooking 3, 4, 5 nights a week, which is fine with me, which gets us to deviled pork chops, which is one of the family favorites. This recipe started out, the chef is a gentleman named James, or was a gentleman named James Beard. And he actually was a predecessor. He was on the scene before even Julia Child. And he was a very good cook in a more standard venue. I'm getting a picture that's not right here. Tom? I have you on the screen, but not me.
What? I just want to make sure volume was working.
Okay. No, it's logging back in. We shouldn't the camera be able to- We're not using it.
There you go.
Okay, we're back. We have the audio and the video coordinated as we speak. James Beard, who more traditional 1950s, 1960s chef. There are a lot of ingredients that have been discovered or come on the scene since he passed away. So we're not going to have anything real exotic that's going to cause you to have to go to an Asian store or a Mexican food store or anything that is too extraordinary. Everything that we're making today came from either Family Fare or Walmart. So it's readily available. We're going to start out with, I don't know how well you can see, I'll come up closer. These are 2 pork chops, as you can see. With this recipe, you can use pork chops or pork steak. I alternate them depending on which is more inexpensive. There's really no difference in the flavor.
That's nice looking pork.
And start out with this. First thing we do is to brown the chops. I put a little butter, about 2 tablespoons in the fry pan. Oops, come with me. 2 tablespoons in the fry pan. And then heat it up a little bit. Since I'm browning it in butter, I have to be a little more careful because butter has a lower burning point than most of the cooking oils. Sometimes if I want a little bit higher temp than I can get with butter, I can add olive oil to it, half and half, and then you can brown them, sear them at a higher temperature. So wait a second for that to melt. I came in earlier and I made this recipe part way, so I'm not going to have to bore you while you wait for 20 minutes for the chops to cook, because we'll brown them and then we'll cover them and turn them on low and let them cook for 18 to 20 minutes until they're cooked through. So I've already done that with 1 set of chops, but we're going to start from scratch with this. Ingredients necessary are butter, salt and pepper, cayenne pepper, Dijon mustard if you want, you can use regular yellow salad style mustard, Worcestershire sauce, seasoned breadcrumbs. And then, since I don't make my gravies from scratch, I get either can, jar, or gravy mix, just make it like that easier. You can use either brown gravy or onion gravy with this, depending on your preference. So I'll get this butter around in here, drop these in here, and it doesn't take long, maybe 3 minutes aside for them to brown. You don't want to get them brown, and up to a point, the browner you get them, and I did wash my hands before I started. That was we were messing with the video and audio. Up to a point, the browner you get a meat, the more flavor it has. Many people just brown it a little bit on each side, and that doesn't really bring out the flavor. Obviously, you don't want to burn it. Again, since I'm using butter, I melted it on high, but now I'm turning it down so that it doesn't burn. I'll just take a couple of minutes to get these browned. And while this is happening, as I said, I had done these other chops earlier. And once we get done with these, they're just now browning, we'll move over to the ones that are already halfway through the recipe. These are the ones that have already cooked for 18 to 20 minutes with the lid on. Oh, another thing that I didn't mention that you need, I use dill pickles in this. The recipe calls for that. One other item that I have in the cooler, and I'll get out now, is I use minced garlic. A lot of people like fresh garlic, but I don't see that much difference between the already minced or mincing up the garlic cloves myself, which is time consuming. So as you can see, this is just minced garlic. Nothing extraordinary in this recipe at all. I'm going to flip these chops over once I get unstuck here. So they're getting a little bit brown, as you can see. I'm going to let them go a little bit more. I need to turn this down a little bit because my butter's starting to turn brown too, and we don't want the butter to burn, which is always high. All right, we'll let those brown. We'll go back to these others that I prepared earlier. This is how they look after they've cooked for 18 to 20 minutes with the lid on the bowl. And I will take these and put some breadcrumbs, that, and then push the chops, or bread the chops, whichever way you prefer, in the breadcrumbs. I'm using Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, but you can use plain if you prefer. There's a lot of ways you can tweak this recipe for your own personal taste. Now that these are breaded, they're going to go into a very hot oven. The oven is 450 degrees. So be careful that if you use the same fry pan that you brown them in, make sure it's an oven-safe fry pan. I don't know that these are, so what I did was bring out my trusty cast iron fry, because I know that this is oven-safe to any temperature that this oven will generate. If you want, again,
Isn't it easier at home when you just use your fingers?
No, I do the same thing here. I'm as clumsy as home as I can. Put them in here. If you want, again, you can salt and pepper them a little bit I know, at my age, I'm 76, almost. My doctor has said, watch the salt a little bit. So I do. So I use, for my purposes, I just use pepper because there is a fair amount of salt in the gravy. As a matter of fact, if you have 4 tablespoons of the made prepared gravy, you're going to get over a quarter of your recommended sodium for the day. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. The breadcrumbs, I want to check, we have to check earlier, to see if there is salt, less than 2% salt. So we're safe with the breadcrumbs. Back to our butter. James Beard recommends that you dot each chop with a little bit of butter. Now, I didn't say this was a heart smart recipe, but again, adapt it to your own needs. And then I'm going to put this fry pan and the dotted pork chops dotted with butter and put them in this 450-degree oven. And I just brushed against the rack, and yes, it's 450 degrees. And set my timer for 10 minutes. So during this 10 minutes, I'm going to make the gravy. So I'm going to start out with the garlic and let's see. Garlic, 4 tablespoons of butter, and cook over low heat until it's softened. So that's about 4 there. The garlic, amount of garlic that's called for, I believe, is, I'll check right now. This is 1 clove, which is roughly half a teaspoon. Butter, half a teaspoon of garlic, more or less, depending on your taste. I like garlic, and so I tend to be, I use a heavy half a teaspoon or 1 clove of diced garlic, chopped garlic. I'm going to warm that, cook it slowly in the butter until the garlic is softened. And while that's happening, I'm going to add the 2 mustards. So 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard or regular mustard, it's up to you. And where's the dry mustard? Luckily, I brought the James Beard book with me. And 1 teaspoon of dry mustard, which is not on the menu. Oh, 1 teaspoon of dry mustard. Oh, okay. So a tablespoon of Dijon. Once this cooks a little bit. Now, if you buy the prepared garlic, it's already fairly soft because it's been in liquid. But what doesn't happen is that it doesn't cook at all. So that's why it's necessary to do it in the butter a little bit. Saute in the butter. I'll give that another minute or so. And our initial chops, the initial chops that we had have gotten brown now, so I'll just move these to the back of the stove, put a lid on them, and cook them for 18 to 20 minutes. Put the lid on. Hook them on low for, as I said, 18 to 20 minutes. Okay. We sauteed the garlic in the butter. We're going to add a tablespoon of Dijon mustard or regular yellow salad style, depending on what you want. Okay. The Fates are not with me today for whatever reason.
Blame it on me.
No, well, that's not. Okay. We get over to the sink here. Rinse the mustard off the hand. Now, my particular cooking style involves about half a roll of paper towels. I don't know why, but it always upsets my wife a little bit how much paper towel I use. What can I tell you? So we have a tablespoon of yellow mustard or Dijon mustard. We want 1 teaspoon of ground mustard. And just checking my proportions. I've made this very many times, but I always like to check. All right, there is a teaspoon of ground mustard. And I have my whisk. I have my whisk, and I'm going to whisk this all together. So it's blended well. Then I'm going to take my onion gravy in this case. As I said, you can use brown gravy or onion. It's entirely up to you. Add the powdered mix. And I believe a cup of water. That's pretty close. Cup of water, and then we're going to slowly bring this to a boil so that it thickens. I think there's a saying about watched gravy never thickens. Something. All right. We have just 3 minutes and 40 seconds on the chops that are in the 450-degree oven. So what we're going to do while we're doing that, we're getting down to the end here. I didn't add. One tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. You can get this recipe from Deb Looney if you're feeling particularly great. She has copies of this. There, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, which adds a little bit to the piquance. All right. Okay. These are kosher dill spears, and I'll show you how this works. Just dice them finely. Come on. All right, that's my rough dice, and I'll do a fine dice. Just as you can tell, I was not trained by Gordon Ramsay, although I did go to one of his restaurants once, but didn't eat because it was too expensive. but I've at least been to one of his restaurants as a walkthrough. So here's my fine dice on the dill pickles. Not too much. I don't want to cut it down so it's like relish. Let's see how we're coming with our gravy. Oh, it's thickening up rather nicely. Show you how that looks right now. Pouring on the floor, but it's starting to get thick, and it will get thicker as we go on. Now, typically, I serve this with mashed potatoes. James Beard recommends you can also saute onions, and it goes well with that. But I use mashed potatoes, and then whatever vegetable happens to be on hand. Right. I had mentioned, we're down to half a minute. I had mentioned sodium before, and as we get older and start having blood pressure issues, it's really important to watch your sodium intake. You might want to talk to your doctor, PA or nurse practitioner about what's a good sodium level for you, because sodium makes your body store water. So if you're taking a water pill, if you're using a lot of sodium, it kind of work against you. Now, ordinarily, there we go. Ordinarily, Deb Looney would be involved in this, but she's recovering from doing her Matter of Balance class this morning. And we're going to be doing another Matter of Balance class later in the summer or early fall. And right, this is what they look like coming out of that 450-degree oven. So they're ready to go. It's just a matter now of plating them. Just a matter of plating them now.
The actual gravy itself that makes them deviled.
Exactly.
pork chops.
It's what's called a deviled sauce. In the 50s, 40s and 50s, a sauce that has cayenne pepper, and we're going to add a little cayenne, just a quarter teaspoon here at the end. Anything that had cayenne pepper was considered very hot. And well, obviously times have changed, because there's so many peppers out now that are way too hot for me. I don't do ghost peppers or any of the other really hot peppers available. All right, we have our gravy, we have our chops. The last thing we're going to do is add this chopped pickle that we have. The amount of cayenne pepper you use, the amount of garlic, entirely up to you, your taste buds. And this. And if I had mashed potatoes, this is what the plate would look like. Because this gravy goes well on mashed potatoes. I'm afraid some food styles won't off. Thank you for stopping by today. And
it smells absolutely wonderful. Thank you for attending. If you'd like the recipe, call 989-366-0205, extension 1103. Have a good day. Thanks a lot, Chuck.
well, you are welcome.